the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, about lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, about lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Nice job. You are sacred love, sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God, sacred love is all that you are. Sing it again. You are sacred love, sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love, God, sacred love is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are blessed peace. You are blessed peace. Blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace, God. Blessed peace is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to to live in such a holy place, such a holy place. Once more, you are sacred love. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love, God. Sacred love is all that you are.
Thank you, Daniel. Feels good, yeah? Now we know how it should really be sung. Let's just take a moment to turn our hearts open to the universe, turn our thoughts inward to that heart, that open door, that presence of divine love and light, feeling that sacred love that is softening us even now, sweeping away all the roughness of this past week and allowing our hearts to tap into that which is holy and good, that which is God. Such a beautiful moment to remember there's only God. There's only good. I am that presence. I am an expression of light. All that I need starts in my heart. And I say yes to that. And so it is. Amen. Will you help me speak our invocation? The words are up here on the screen. Together? There's only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. And so it is. You may be seated. I'm still talking. Hey, got something else to say. I know that Daniel probably doesn't know this or maybe remember this, but in 2004 or 5, 6-ish, I was in seminary, and you came with Reverend Richard Rogers. To the village. Do you remember that? Yeah. To talk about how to do an alternative worship service. Right. It was so fun. It was the first time we ever heard music like Daniel's in a Unity church. We were really excited. I was excited. Being a musician, I was like, yeah, I'm happy. And Daniel had all this great music that he'd already worked on, and it just made my heart sing to know that that was going to be available when I went into ministry. And when I first started, we didn't have Kim Char, we didn't have Kevin, we didn't have our fabulous keyboard and drummer. It was just me and recordings of Daniel Nahmod and a few others that we would just all sing along with. And Daniel's been a part of our congregation ever since then. So every time he's been here, maybe 1 or 2 times, I've always been gone because I'm on vacation. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be here today, because in that time he has done many awesome albums for us. He's written a lot of music that made available to churches, and he's got a new album in the mix. Yes, almost done. Opportunity to pick that up today on your way out via pre-order, and then we can either get it downloaded or will it be mailed to us if we do that? Okay, yeah. So Megan, hang out at the front table today and make sure you get signed up for that. But we have got this entire service now turned over to Daniel to do his amazing work. Keep your hearts open. I don't know if that's me, Parker, or this guy. I'll go sit down and turn this off. Yeah, look at, hey, I'm back again. All that to say, please open your hearts and give big love to Daniel Nahmod as he shares his joys, his talents with us. Trust that you will be lighter by the time you leave today. But don't leave until after the concert. We'll talk more about that. Daniel, welcome.
That's very nice of you to say. That's really flattering that you'd remember that visit. No, really, that means a lot. One never knows if one is remembered. It's impossible to know, but it's nice to hear when it happens. And the songs you just sang, Sacred Love, those songs were written for that worship service that Richard and I developed with his now wife, Jill. the three of us developed a worship service that was almost all music, which you can imagine was fun for me. And that those songs were brand new when I visited with Richard, the songs you just sang. And when I pray, I don't know what songs of mine you sing, Get Ready My Soul, and a lot of those songs were written for that. So we were still right in the thick of the creation of that. Okay, so good morning, and before I say anything else, let me sing you a new song, and it will pertain, I think, to what I'm going to say after it. Here we go. Do you ever feel, but try to ignore something real, something more? Well, your secret's safe, but by the way, I feel it too. So this is me, I've got to go, I've got no plan, I've just got to know what's calling me, 'cause I believe it's something true, and I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. If it's the last thing I ever do, I'm gonna find it. It's just a matter of time, yeah. And when I do, I promise you it's gonna be real. I've never been the kind of guy to stride the stage, to own the night. I'd rather hide, I'd sooner ride along than drive. But in my dreams, how sweet it feels, from red to green, my hands on the wheel, the moment's mine, and it's finally time to bring on the light, and I'm gonna find it. 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 If it's the last thing I ever do, I'm gonna find it. It's just a matter of time, yeah. And when I do, I promise you it's gonna be real. Smiling at strangers, passing time. Am I still alive? We're staring down danger in overtime. What destiny is mine? I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. If it's the last thing I ever do, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. It's just a matter of time, yeah. And when I do, I swear to you, it's gonna be real. Gonna hold it in my hand, gonna taste it on my tongue. Gonna show it to the world, gonna tell them what I've done, yeah. Gonna see it with my eyes, gonna carry it in my arms. Gonna shout it to the wind, gonna feel it in my heart. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, I have some songs that I can sing quietly or loud. That is not one of them. I have, and then there's those songs that always make me sweat. I don't know for sure if that's one of them because it's new. That's on the new album. You just heard it before it's out. Yeah. But I doubt I'll ever be able to sing that in a whisper. And I will also say that it's really not actually the finding it that I wanted to talk about today. It's actually more what I talk about in the first few lines of that song that I wanted to talk about a little bit. So the opening lines of that song, do you ever feel but try to ignore something real, something more? Well, your secret's safe, but by the way, I feel it too. Now the brain, I don't know about yours, my brain is a very busy and scattered and sloppy place. I am engaged in, 7 to 19 world-changing, fortune-making projects at any one time, almost none of which I ever finish. And then there's probably 20 or 30 other things that I dream of doing or building for the house or fixing, places I think of seeing that don't happen ever. Is this for you guys too? To-do lists that never get finished. My wife and I, when she was my girlfriend, we took a vacation, which we vaguely remember what it feels like since Jude was born. And we had a couple plans. We had like it was near a beach, and we were going to float on a boat, and that was nice, and so on. But this was about, we've been married 12 years, so this was probably about 13 years ago. And the thing that I remember about that trip is actually Trivial Pursuit. Because one afternoon when we had nothing planned, we went to Starbucks, and they had a Trivial Pursuit game, and we sat and played Trivial Pursuit for like 3 hours and drank, chai. And it was absolutely the highlight of this otherwise complicated and more expensive than we could now afford trip. Don't you ever find that the unbooked 3 hours on a vacation turns out to be the highlight, or the street you didn't plan on turning down, the person you didn't plan on meeting, the idea you didn't expect to have, the thing that wasn't on the to-do list turns out to be the most pregnant, the most productive, the most inspired. And similarly, it seems to me, my experience anyway, paradoxically, the quieter I get, the more I hear. Like, I like to talk. You're about to find out, but I'll try to be merciful. But I like to talk. Like I said, very busy mind. My mind is talking even when my mouth isn't going. But actually, very little truly creative and new happens until I stop talking, until I get quiet, until I have the unbooked hour, which leads me to sort of a slowly growing realization, which makes me sound like more of a hippie than I am, which is that there is a lot more available to you and me at any given moment than most of us access, if not even know. I am not a woo-woo person who says that if you think hard enough about a red bike, you're going to get one. I was raised by lawyers. I am far too practical and cynical to think anything so silly. My parents were always very clear. You want to get a good job? Get a good degree and work hard. That was it. It was uncomplicated, and I don't think my life experience really has disproven that, more or less, although there's always There's always the Steve Jobs, the dropout from this or that. But by and large, my parents were right. So that is not my approach here. My approach is more from a creative side. Maybe even, if you wanted to use the word, from a spiritual side. It is a noisy world, and if your mind is, I hope your mind is nothing like mine, but if it is anything like my ADD brain, it's busy, it's worried, it's nervous, it's complicated, it's cluttered. And buried underneath the mess is far more possibility than most of us ever bother to uncover. Like that song is, see, I don't know. When you hear a guy you don't know singing a song about I'm going to find it with like a real fire, I'm not pretending, right? Do you picture me like venturing out onto a barren landscape with a sword, to go conquer something, you know what I mean? Like that's the more common, I'm going to go find it, but actually it's not what I really mean. Where I know I will find it is in here. But I will absolutely not find it if I don't shut up. I will not find that thing. And if you're asking me what it is, it doesn't matter what I think it is. It only matters what you think it is. So I thought we would do a couple of little experiments today if you feel like it. If you're up for it. If you're not, no problem. So, if you feel like dabbling in this with me, let's dabble in what's always available but rarely accessed. I'm going to close my eyes. You're invited to do the same. Nothing magical is going to happen in the room while your eyes are closed, except maybe inside your mind or someone else's. And the question is only to provoke whatever you think is interesting. We'll just take a few seconds, literally. If you find it interesting, it's good. If you don't find it interesting, great. No problem. So here is a question for you. What are you trying to find? In songwriting, and it's probably true in other art forms, the worst thing you can do in a creative process is critique it while you're doing it. It's just death. Death to the song, death to the painting, death to the poem, it's death to it, is to critique it, criticize it, anticipate shortcomings or problems with the idea as it's happening. It does not work. Far better to jot down a sloppy first draft exactly as it comes out and then do the editing. So if you had a thought, and I say, what are you trying to find? If you had a thought that was inconvenient or expensive or seemingly unattainable or embarrassing or shame-filled or sadness-filled, the only thing I'll say is there's no reason to delete it while you're having it. Nobody else knows what's in your mind. If I say, what are you trying to find? And the answer is happiness. But the person you're sitting next to thinks you're happy, that's not their business. Right? Fulfillment, but you're supposed to already be fulfilled. That's nobody else's business. If it's a feeling you have and it's interesting to you, then it's worth having. I've seen my share of struggle when I thought that I knew best, when I've sailed through a storm instead of stopping to rest. But it always seems the hardest when I've made up my stubborn mind. Well, I'm changing my ways this time. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. Have you ever seen an eagle head straight into the wind? He doesn't pick a fight, spreads his wings and just gives in. And in the end he always makes it home just fine. Guess he knows that every storm subsides. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. I'll let nature take its course. No more thinking that I know where this river's meant to go. I have railed against the stars for the cards that I've been dealt, for the lottery I've never won, for the heartache that I've felt. But it always seems when I let go of expectation and regret, life has plenty of surprises for me yet. I wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyons, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. Now, there are other things that are available also, like an awareness or a forgiveness or a feeling is also available. And I don't know about you, I have like two main medications of choice to prevent myself from feeling things. First one is chocolate of all kinds. It's just true, and it's well documented. And the other thing I use is like, vacuous entertainment, like reading news I don't need to know and watching videos that are only slightly or less entertaining, or watching a TV show I've watched before, like Monk. You guys know Monk? I think I've seen every episode 3 times, probably. That's an entire series. I think they had like 10 years of it. You do the math. It's a lot of hours of songs not written and feelings not had. So what feeling is available at any given moment that I, and sorry to project, many of us in this room probably are shielding ourselves from by just keeping busy, whatever your medication is. I salute you. Like, let's say, for example, if I were to, actually, let's try it. If you're up for another 10-second experiment. Are you ready? Close your eyes. I'm just going to ask you a question. If it comes to mind and it's interesting for you, then good. Here we go. What are you sad about? I think I probably have literally 15 pounds of sugar and brownie on my body instead of sadness I actually feel. Or fear. You know what I mean? I mean, just like instead of feeling it, there are ways to avoid feeling. I employ them, you know. I think I forgive myself for that. Like, you know, human is human. Okay. But I kind of wish I didn't. I certainly have learned that the only way past a feeling is through it. You can't really ignore a whisper of something. You can ignore it forever, but it's going to cost you. For me, I started as pretending to be a computer programmer in Baxter. My most recent computer programming job was in Baxter, in Deerfield, Baxter Healthcare. I grew up in Skokie. I don't know if you know that. You probably don't know that. Grew up in Chicago. Grew up in Skokie. I'm in town actually for a family wedding, that was my most recent corporate job. I left that job in 1997. I still remember how that cubicle felt. A little crypt-like. It's not a compliment. Very gray, very gray. And at the time I was pretending to be a computer programmer, I was also engaged, not to my wife, but engaged to somebody. And fighting with numerous members of family and really struggling with all kinds of things. And I did my best to suppress the growing terror that I was living a dream life in somebody else's dream. I was fighting that feeling with everything I had and was failing miserably at preventing that feeling from hurting me, if that makes sense. In other words, rather than feel it, I was doing everything I could. I was just burning everything else down. And it was just luck that on a day in December in 1997, I suddenly realized that I was lying for a living, lying to my fiancée. I was just in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons, and pulled the plug on the whole thing. And 8 months later, moved to LA to make a living making music. I had no idea what that looked like, and I'm glad nobody told me how unlikely it would be that I would make a living, and also I'm glad nobody told me how awful a place Los Angeles is. And there are a bunch of things I'm glad people didn't tell me, and a few things I wish they had told me, but that's another story. So if I say, what are you sad about? And your first thought is, hell with you, I'm not sad. Great. Is it true? Great. But is there something? Is there a grief that you're eating brownies instead of feeling? You know, welcome to the human race. I got no judgment, and it's nobody's business but yours. Is there a fight you had with a best friend that you're still walking around right way back in your spine, tickling you with some sadness all the time, right? I had a friend who had a lump in her breast, right? And so she was called back for a second, whatever it wasn't a mammogram. She'd already had the mammogram. It was some more like a more precise test. And the soonest appointment they could make for her was like 3 weeks later. And she and I talked about, even if it's necessary for logistical reasons, got it. But there's something inhuman about making somebody wait 3 weeks with that question hanging over your head. Have you ever had something that made you nervous and then you went around about your day and forgot what you were nervous about, but didn't forget that you were nervous? You know what I mean? Like, so that I'll be on edge an entire day and think, oh yeah, that's right. I was supposed to check if that credit card was already late. You know, I was supposed to check all day, have a little pit in my stomach. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
There are things that are available in silence that are easily, readily, regularly drowned out by everything else. The subject is a large subject, and stopping talking is not my specialty. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to the piano, and I'm going to raise just a third question for you, and then sing you a song before we wrap up. So another thing I find that is available, but not always accessed, is, I'm going to use a word that's very mushy, but I'll tell you what I mean. Compassion. Here's what I mean. Is there anybody in your life who just pisses you off on a regular basis? Preferably somebody you cannot escape from. You know what I mean? Somebody who sits in the cubicle next to you, or brother or sister, or child, parent, spouse, whatever it is. Somebody who has something about them, and it's a funny thing to ask, but I also am serious. Somebody that presses a button that hurts when it gets pressed. You know? Or do you have something about you that hurts someone in your world? That's also obviously worth asking. Because if I ask you, who are 3 people in your life who love you unconditionally, it's a beautiful thing if somebody, right? The people who pop into your mind, if I ask you that question, think about how they'd feel if they knew that they popped into your head. I say, right, the sweetest person you know. Well, that person would be really touched if they knew, right? But if I ask people around the world, the sweetest person you know, somebody would probably think of you. And that's just as lovely. But the inverse is also true. Who drives you crazy? Who presses your button? Who makes you mad? Whose particular brand of uncomfortable, awkward, or broken humanness rankles you, distresses you? Well, that person who you just thought of would not be flattered to know you thought of them, but somebody would probably answer you to the same question, right? Which brings me to this subject of compassion. So let's approach it this way for a couple minutes if you're open to it. What about you drives at least one person you love crazy? Maybe that's too vague. Hurts somebody you love. Right? What about you? Can't you seem to stop doing? It's just like the stuff you're made of, and at least in that relationship, you wish it wasn't. You know it hurts them. And it hurts you that it hurts them. You care. I'm assuming you care. Right? You have something in mind? I do. Somebody just asked me at this family wedding, why don't you call me more often? And I never call her. And you know why? I told her the truth. Because I am terrible at keeping in touch with people who are not in my immediate vicinity. I am awful at it, which has not been great for my relationship with my parents who live in Chicago and I live in Orange County, California. Not been great for my relationship with my cousin who lives in Israel, my cousin who lives in Iowa, my brother who lives in New York. It's not even great for my relationship with my brother who lives in Los Angeles, 40 miles away. To be fair, that's like a 2.5-hour drive, depending on what time of the day. But you get what I'm saying? That characteristic of mine, it's not out of sight, out of mind. It's out of sight, I'm too busy. It has not been good for a whole lot of relationships in my life. Okay? So that's just an example. So if I ask you, what about you hurts someone you love? Take a couple seconds. Again, close your eyes if you need to. If you don't, it's okay. What about you hurts someone you love and you just can't or haven't stopped that thing, removed that aspect of you from the relationship? What about you hurts someone you love? Okay? Now, the next question then, and if that first question isn't something you ask of yourself very often, which certainly isn't something I ask of myself very often, the second question might be even a little deeper into the unexplored, like I said, the unaccessed part. Are you ready for the second question then is, where did that nature of you, where did that aspect of you that hurts the person you love, where did that characteristic of you come from? I'm not looking for excuses, forgiveness. I'm actually just asking, why do you lose your temper in those situations? Why do you drink when you know it scares your spouse? Why do you disappear for 6 months? Why do you forget to take out the garbage? Where did it come from? And now let's flip the script real quick, and I'll just ask the reverse question, okay? Think of somebody in your life who drives you nuts. And you love them, meaning you want them in your life, or you have to have them in your life, let's say. They're not the same thing, of course. But something about them offends you, hurts you regularly, and they just won't stop it. Got something? Got someone? That's usually easy to find, I think. Then the follow-up question is, how did they get that way? Are they exactly like their parents? Was there a trauma that led them to be obsessive compulsive about neatness, make your life miserable living with them? Are they going through a divorce, something hostile or harsh in their life that made them angry such that their anger spills over and hurts you? And again, this is not woo-woo, and I'm not telling you to, it's just exploring an aspect of the relationship that you may not get quiet enough to think about when they're driving you nuts. That's the opportunity of being quiet for a minute. See, it seems to me if you ask yourself, how did I get that way? How did Danny get that way to not keep in touch well with people far away? If I ask myself, the explanation makes me feel a little less critical of myself, if that makes sense. There are reasons, and they're not bad reasons. They're not meaningless reasons why a person drinks or has a temper or is just unbearable one way or another. I'm not saying you flip a switch and forgive, and they don't care if you do, and you don't care if they do. It doesn't change. I mean, in my experience, there's no moment of forgiveness. But compassion, That's real. You add 3% of compassion into a relationship with a person who drives you nuts, but you just don't generally stop and ask yourself why they are that way. And by the way, the answer of why they are that way, I'd be surprised if anyone thought of anything that's actually your fault. In other words, they are the way they are, and you are not a victim of it, but you're a recipient of it. Lucky you. But they came in that way, were raised that way, became that way, not because of you. That's the stuff that they have to live with. I used to have a little game I'd play sometimes with somebody I really couldn't stand, like in school. I would picture them as a baby. And when you picture, because people generally, most people look like they did when they were little kids. And it's just heartbreakingly adorable, right? To look at a child picture of somebody now and you're like, oh my God, you look exactly the same. So if it's somebody you don't like, and you picture them as a baby, suddenly they get a little bit sweeter, in my mind anyway. Like I dislike them a little less, because I'm picturing a little kid pretending to be a grown-up, which is kind of what we're all doing. Doing the best we can to act like grown-ups acted when we were kids. It's just kind of modeling and example setting, and here we are, pretending to be a grown-up, dressing like we think grown-ups dress, and talking like we think grown-ups talk. And we're all, unfortunately, raised by humans, who themselves were unfortunately and sadly raised by humans. And I don't know about you, but the more I learn about the generations behind me, the more human they were. The mistakes and the brokenness and the sadness and the depression and the abuses, and I'm right, it's I would say it's a bleak past, but I don't know if it's a past. I think it's just kind of a human condition, is complexity and sadness and anger. Flawed parenting might be a mild term, but just making mistakes, sometimes with the best of intentions, sometimes not. Everyone around us, and you, and I, doing the best we can with the stuff we're made of and the stuff we've been through. Not easy to think it or feel it when it is the jerk in the cubicle next to us, or in the car next to us, or in the bed next to us. Not easy to always think of. But just like an I'm going to find it, an ambition, a dream, a longing, just like a feeling of sadness or nervousness, these things can be blanketed over by a busy day, and then 364 more busy days in a year. And a year goes by without ever really noticing the feeling underneath the life. And it's an awareness. Again, I'm not a woo-woo. This is not a woo-woo thing where you're like, I just feel the divine presence like a golden gossamer wings floating. You can have that feeling if you want. I never have that feeling. Seriously, I'm talking about real life, the person in front of me. Can I see them with a slightly softer heart? The person in the mirror. Can I see Danny with a slightly softer heart, knowing where I came from, how I got this way? If I'm guarded or cranky or, right? So I thought I'd share one more song, another one of the new songs with you. And then we'll wrap up the service, I imagine, because it's about 4 o'clock. This is a song inspired by a couple of people close to me, and it pertains to what I was just talking about. Maybe you'll relate. I've never understood how you turned out so good. with all that you've had to endure. No one expected you to make the best of you. The deck stacked against you for sure. The more that I learn, the more I admire how you never got burned being forged in a fire. Yeah, an ordinary mortal would have quit by now. With a life like a field full of mines. You're human, I know, only muscle and bone, but you must have steel in your spine. You never talk about when you first figured out that you'd have to go it alone. It breaks my heart to picture you, a child hiding out of view, so young to fight on your own. But still here you stand, and still here you are, igniting the world with your luminous heart. Yeah, an ordinary mortal would have quit by now. With a life like a field full of mines. You're human, I know, made of muscle and bone, but you must have steel in your spine, and that would explain how you never admit any pain. So let me just say that child has a lot to be proud of, but no longer needs to keep the world at bay. If you were mortal, you'd have quit by now. You've been counted out so many times. You're human like me. You can bruise, you can bleed, but you must have steel in your spine. Yeah, a mortal would have quit by now, but your light was determined to shine. You're so much more than they see, a superhero to me. You must have steel in your spine. You must have steel